What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Like and subscribe or you'll have to spend time in one of these prisons. Going to prison isn't ever a good thing, but some prisons are worse than others. Way worse, actually. Let's dive into the most dangerous prisons in the world. Stick around for the end to see a prison that's guaranteed to give you nightmares. The name Gladiator School sounds kind of cool to me, like they're gonna teach you how to use a sword and shield to fight lions and stuff. Well, this prison earned the name for something else. This place is known for extreme violence among prisoners, and apparently the guards actively support it. I'm pretty sure I've seen a movie like this, but I've never thought it would happen in real life. I don't ever want to go to a place where they're acting out Mad Max for real. Also, if everyone knows the guards are crooked, why aren't they locked up too? I'm sure the inmates would love to welcome them into their gladiator arena. At least they don't have to fight tigers. Just other people with sharpened toothbrushes. If you get locked up in a prison that has an actual gas chamber, you're definitely in for a bad time. San Quentin is the oldest prison in California and one of the most violent. This place is famous for being an absolute terrifying place to serve out your sentence. Between all of the riots and inmates stabbing each other, this prison is basically a breeding ground for hardened criminals. A report conducted in 2005 even stated that it was too dangerous to keep people there. Too bad they don't let you bring your own body armor when you get locked in here, because there's a good chance you'll be turned into a human pincushion. Prison guards in Thailand are way more brutal than the ones in America. The guards here are known for torturing inmates all of the time. Plus, they cram tons of prisoners into tiny cells, and these conditions make inmates fight each other daily. I wouldn't ever want to get into a prison fight with dudes in Thailand because they probably know Muay Thai and will cave in my head with an elbow strike. Actually, I don't want to get into a prison fight anywhere. Or just a regular fight for that matter. I'll just stick to watching the UFC. Speaking of brutal prison guards, the guards here have killed more inmates than any other prison in America. They're also fans of instigating fights with prisoners and then punishing them for fighting back. Charles Manson used to be locked up here too, and that's not the kind of company I like to keep. If you don't know, Manson is one of the most deranged cult leaders of all time, and is responsible for the brutal deaths of several people. Not the kind of guy I'd want to share a cell with. Sometimes celebrities get off with a slap on the wrist for crimes they commit, but sometimes they get locked up in some of the worst places. This brutal prison has had some major celebrities spend time behind its bars, including Michael Vick and Machine Gun Kelly. I wonder if anyone asked for their autograph while they were in there. It's a lot more difficult to avoid fans when you're locked in a cell with them. Imagine only being able to leave your cell for 2 hours a day. That's the reality for inmates at this brutal prison. I'd lose my mind for sure, but then again, I'd probably lose my mind in any prison. Spending time behind bars just really doesn't appeal to me at all. Luckily, the biggest law I've ever broken is going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. What can I say? I'm just a daredevil. Okay, this place literally used to have 1,000 stabbings every year. That's over 2 people getting stabbed every day for the entire year. And that's not even counting all of the other kinds of violence that went on. This place was like one big free-for-all, and if you made it out alive, you'd definitely be leaving with some new scars. Prisons aren't supposed to look like the Hunger Games, but this one definitely did. Luckily, Rikers finally started clamping down on the inmate violence, and now they're just down to just 70 stabbings a year. That's still 70 more stabbings than I'd like to have, but it's definitely an improvement. People in prison usually belong to a gang, and rival gang members get into fights behind bars all of the time. The guards at this place actually encourage this by putting people from rival gangs in the same cell. This is like putting Mario and Bowser in the same room and locking them inside. Only bad things happen from this point forward. Actually, Peach is the one usually behind bars. I wonder if she has any prison tats. We definitely need a gritty Mario movie where he has teardrop tattoos and carries a gun. Hit me up, Nintendo. If you want to see cage fights, just tune in for the next Conor McGregor pay-per-view. The guards here decided to set up their own arena and let prisoners duke it out for their entertainment. Even if an inmate wins, they probably don't give him a shiny medal to celebrate. Seriously, just set up a friendly game of softball or something. You can still bet on it and nobody has to take a kneecap to the dome. I know that prison food is bad, but it can't be worse than eating a knuckle sandwich. Sometimes prison guards do enough harm to inmates that the prisoners band together to fight back. The violent guards here ended up getting attacked in a massive riot, and a lot of them suffered serious injuries because of it. I don't know about you, but if I worked in a prison, I'd be as nice as possible to the inmates. I'd rather not get on the bad side of anyone locked up for assault and murder. Keeping cartel members behind bars is risky business. These guys are super well connected and have people both inside and outside the prison to help them out. That's why this place has had so much violence behind its walls. Plus, cartels are basically experts at digging tunnels, so there's a good chance they'll break out at some point. Even judges and prosecutors aren't safe from these violent drug runners. Honestly, if I made these guys angry, I'd probably just fly to Switzerland or something. I don't think they can dig a tunnel to me under the ocean. What do you do with prisoners that are too violent and deadly for normal prison? Send them to this place, I guess? This prison specializes in taking prisoners who are deemed too dangerous for other places. Listen, if you're such a bad criminal that you're even too bad for prison, you might have taken a couple of wrong turns in life. Honestly, it kind of seems like a bad idea to keep all of the worst people in one location. I mean, what if they decide to form some kind of super gang and take over the world? It's not likely, but there's still a chance. Hopefully a real-life Batman will show up to help us out. If over a third of the prisoners inside your facility are serving time for murder, you might want to increase security a little bit. This place has had a ton of violence between inmates and has earned its reputation for being incredibly dangerous. Putting a bunch of prisoners who like killing people together in the same place turned out to be not a great idea. Who would have thought? Putting a prison on an island is basically just putting a prison on top of another prison. Like, even if you escape, you're still stranded on an island. Alcatraz is world famous for being one of the most violent prisons of all time, and it held some super famous criminals too, including the famous gangster Al Capone. A lot of escape attempts were made, but luckily most prisoners weren't able to swim through the ocean to dry land. This brutal place was finally closed in the 60s, but its legacy lives on as one of the deadliest prisons in the world. A prison that's designed to house the absolute worst criminals is bound to be a dangerous place. This SUPERMAX prison in Colorado has built up a reputation for having absolutely brutal conditions for the inmates. From extended solitary confinement to the torture and abuse of inmates, this place is far from a walk in the park. And I thought people in Colorado were supposed to be all nice and chill, but it turns out that even guards in this relaxing state enjoy using their power to the fullest extent. Okay, I seriously didn't expect a French prison to make this list. I really thought everyone in France would be too busy drinking wine and eating cheese to have any time to be a criminal. I've never been more wrong in my life because this place is ridiculously terrible. One year they had 124 prisoners commit suicide because they couldn't handle the violent conditions they were under. Inmates here only get 4 hours a day out of their cells, and it seems like they spend most of that time stabbing each other with homemade weapons. I'm never gonna make fun of French people again. I don't want to get stabbed with a sharpened baguette. Here's a quick pro tip. If you ever get arrested and taken to prison, and then when they're walking you inside you see a bunch of kids locked up too, you should probably do everything you can to escape. Diyarbakir in Turkey is known to lock up kids and give them lifelong sentences. On top of that, the prison guards kill inmates like all of the time. One time they murdered 10 prisoners in one day. Seriously, at this point, I think the guards should be the ones behind bars. I'm just gonna go ahead and cross Turkey off my list of places to visit. This prison is notoriously overfilled and understaffed. Conditions like this make it almost impossible to stop violent crimes from being committed. And one time a gunfight broke out that left 108 prisoners dead when it was over. First of all, I didn't think gunfights happened in prisons, so that's news to me. And secondly, if you have access to guns and stuff, why don't you just break out? Seriously, I think some of these madmen actually enjoy these crazy environments. If you get arrested in South America, you should beg the cops not to bring you here, unless you're a fan of massive gang wars and riots. We've looked at some bad places so far, but this one really takes it a step further. Tadmor Prison in Syria was designed to be the most dehumanizing prison in the world. Inmates lived in a walking nightmare as soon as they were shoved behind the walls. One time, Syria's president gave an order to shoot every prisoner in sight after he survived an assassination attempt. This prison is one of the most messed up places in the world, and it's still operating today. Syria was never on my list of travel destinations, but I'm gonna write it down just so I can cross it